welcome back everybody to Apaya Puzzles, and I'm not sure if I've said it already, but Happy New Year to you all. Today we're going to be looking at many clues of the day with a special flavour and a slightly different format to usual today, just playing around with some different ways of presenting things. Over the last number of weeks there's been some brilliant clues from David Astle in The Age. This set here are from this Friday just past crossword, which was a themed crossword. I'll explain the theme as we get to number 4 and 5 on this list, which have those underscores. And I've chosen these clues on account of their difficulty and various misdirections that are going on in them. And actually coming to the video, I was intending for clue 5 and 6 to be ones that I was going to confess to not fully understand, and that I was hoping that I would make some feedback from viewers. But as it turns out, I've figured them out in having a think about it before putting this together. They're exceptionally difficult, I find. So yeah, this is not so much clue of the day, although these are great clues, but more a review of some very, very difficult clues from this week's puzzle. Like I say, it's been a lot of good clues in recent weeks, so I am hoping to do a video covering some of those as well. Also, I did a full solve of Stephen Knight's crossword in The Big Issue, and I won't waffle on about it, but it was a massive fail. A number of typos and misspellings led me into no man's land, and so I'm not going to be publishing that, but I will publish hopefully some of the better clues from it. In the meantime, let's have a look at this. So, spoiler alert, as always, I will be revealing the answers. For the first 4, I'm going to reveal letter by letter to kind of, so you can kind of play along as if you were solving for real. The last 2 I'll just cold reveal. I hadn't set this up to I'd set this up to cold reveal them because I didn't think there was any value in just giving individual letters, and I still think, given how hard they are, that I might as well just stick with that. So let's start with the first one here. Man's content to occupy unsound blue villa. So my initial thought was that content was being used to indicate the contents of the word man, which is just the letter A in the middle, and that A would be occupying something else that's referred to by unsound and blue, and the final definition would be a villa. Now, what the unsound blue was meaning, I wasn't sure. Unsound and blue can both be used as anagram indicators. The natural one would be blue, because unsound is 7 letters plus the A is 8, and that would be the 8 letters we need, but I couldn't think of an anagram of those. And I started to think maybe unsound is the anagram indicator on the word blue, and that's going to surround something meaning man's content or content, and not the letter A necessarily. So bit of a glitch there. So a letter in place gives us this A, so that's adding some weight to the potential for man's content to be the A. Not necessarily, but that was what my thinking was doing. Next, this B at the beginning here, this wasn't actually one of the crossing letters, but I'm showing it now, and that starts to look like blue is part of the anagram. So the plot thickens until we get to this final letter, which was one of the crossing letters, and I think this is where I solved it, which is a W, and that doesn't appear anywhere in the clue, so it's not an anagram, or at least the one that we thought. And you might see from that BAW a potential word for villa, which is a bungalow. And so in fact what's happening here is that man's content really is just the A, but it's not inside of any sort of anagram. It's just inside of a word that means unsound, which is bung, like my bung knee, and blue in the sense of low mood, so low. So two, well, particularly bung, a very difficult synonym to find, but compensated for by the relative ease of the definition being villa. The structure of the clue is fairly readable, and so I think most regular DA solvers would think that villa was the definition, and they might get to the word bungalow fairly quickly if they had a more vibrant, active vocabulary than I did. So moving on to the next clue, and the reason I highlighted that clue is just the unsound blue part of that clue is is especially misdirecting because they just look for all the world like they're going to be something anagrammatic, and they're not. So the next one along. Now, when Medico attends a virus strain, question mark, 6 letters long. The question mark, well deserved here. And this I've included along with a couple of others here as part of a bit of a theme recently from DA that I think is a bit new. I haven't seen this many of this kind of clue coming out from anyone. I wouldn't have said this was like a mainstay of DA's wordplay, although it definitely comes up sometimes, but it's just coming up a lot recently. This is tricky. Now, I'll give a letter or two. I had this E and D in place. I was thinking of virus strains in the COVID family, and I couldn't think of anything. But the D there looked for all the world that it was going to be part of MD for Medico, or DR for Medico. And that is indeed how it worked out. The A also looked like it was probably going to be in the answer and probably at the end, which is exactly where it was. Just a note on that typically, if the A was not part of the wordplay, it wouldn't be in the clue at all because it wouldn't need to be there. And you might get from this, if you know your viruses, the final answer is Hendra. You might struggle for a second with the wordplay here. I certainly did. For a moment I thought we might be looking at some sort of weird hidden, because if you note that the words when Medico attends contain the letters HEN and then the Medico, which would be DR, and then the first letter of attends, and that would be a hidden. It's a very unusual way of presenting it, but there was no obvious hidden indicator, and the word now didn't serve that purpose, and it wasn't clear at all what the word now was doing until I realized that now is to be treated as two separate words, no and W. So if we take the word when with no W, we get HEN, then Medico, and A for the virus strain Hendra. So this, I think, is called a lift and separate clue. And I've been seeing loads of them in the last month from DA. And I quite like them, but they're very, very difficult to process. I think especially with small words like that. If it was something like masthead, then it's kind of more obvious that you might split that into two words, but to now and to become no W. There was one, I did a clue of the day the other day, which the answer was copyright. The definition element was the letter C, and that C was the last letter of a longer word, the rest of which was wordplay. So that was taking things to the extreme. And I've got to say, very hard to solve, but they are really fun to finally understand. So moving on to clue number 3, and witness recalled insecure tone. This is another example of the same kind of thing. This one a little bit more straightforward because the word recalled has such an obvious meaning in cryptic ease, and it's a slightly shorter answer as well. Still not the most common word. So we're looking at some letters here. Oh, hang on. There we go. So the T in the middle there, and then the R there. And you might get there if you have a look inside insecure tone and find the word nota, a witness. So recalled is just saying that inside of insecure tone we get NOTER going backwards. Recalled indicates the backwardness of that, but what is indicating the fact of this being a hidden clue? Because there needs to be a word that says contained in or surrounds or something like that. Well, in this case, the word insecure needs to be split up into the words in and secure. So inside secure tone, we find the word nota being recalled. So moving on to clue number 4, and this is one of the themes. So one of the answers in this crossword was in or out, defined as the call of a croupier. And the instruction was that we needed to use the answer to that clue to fill in the blanks for these underlined answers. So in this case, this clue would be either chip income or chip outcome, in or out. And it was amazing how many clues involved this, and in some really creative ways. It was a brilliantly constructed puzzle. So this is either chip income or chip outcome, and the question mark there is suggesting something a little slippery and possibly even a kind of cryptic definition of some sort. I think I had in place all of the crossing letters in the US and the O, and you might get over the line with those if you think about the underlines meaning the word out. So outcome is the word there, and another word for outcome is an upshot. It took me a long time to figure out, or to scratch my head to the point of understanding that how chip and upshot were related to each other. Although in retrospect it's not that obscure, but it's pretty tricky. And I think the intended meaning of this is that a chip shot in golf or tennis, that kind of thing, is explicitly a shot that is focused or is targeted upwards. So an upshot is a chip. I was thinking along the lines of chip off the old block, and that maybe upshot had something to do with that, but I think maybe I was thinking of the word upstart. In any case, I think that's how that one works. Now, this one here, so these two, I had intended to make this video and explain that I had no idea really. I understood half of the wordplay, but there was one component that made no sense to me. And in preparing the video, the pennies plonked. So this one, there's not going to be individual letter reveals. I'll just reveal the answer. Switch question implicating a G underscore. So this is either a gin or a gout. And believe it or not, there was another answer where the definition was gout. And this one was gin. And I barely drink alcohol at all, but I solved this one really quickly because I just recognized the name of the gin, and I think the Q in the word question kind of got me thinking in the right direction. Answer here being Tanqueray, brand of gin. So a question is a query. That's that second part of the answer, and it is implicating the letter A. So that is to say it's containing the letter A. I'm slightly curious whether implicating is a very accurate kind of indicator word for containing. Implying kind of seems to make sense more than implicating, but whatever the case, that is how that's working. And I was really confused by this word tan at the beginning and switch in the clue. And I did look it up and couldn't seem to find the relationship, but I had another look, and there's an obscure meaning of the word switch, which means to hit or to beat. And indeed tan, and this is not part of most of our active vocabulary either, but tan has a similar meaning. To tan something is to hit it or beat it. So that's what's going on with switch and tan. Probably one that wouldn't bat an eyelid from the real professional solvers of the world, but for me that was quite a leap. And then finally, the final clue here: mechanical women deviously set mob against defender. Yeah, this one really had me. I knew the answer fairly quickly because it's not very difficult for the most part. There's a quite clear-cut, likely definition in mechanical women, particularly with the obvious anagram indicator of deviously against the letters of set mob. So this gives us the answer of fembots. So EMBOTS is an anagram of set mob. Mechanical women are obviously fembots. So this word defender seemed to indicate the letter F, and I thought perhaps it was a position on a sporting field, so maybe one of the netball positions DA likes to use, but that was not the case, and F would normally, I would think, be a forward, which is not a defending position. I thought it could be the F in defender, but I couldn't see why, because I thought there'd be an indicator to say the middle letter or something, and it wasn't in the middle. But actually it is that F. I realized at the last moment before making this video, because defender needs to be separated into two words, def and ender. So the ending letter of def, the ender of that word, is the letter F. So that's very difficult and almost unjustified, I suppose. I like it, but I could see why someone might bristle at that, because not only are you lifting and separating that word, but you are using the word ender, which I'm not sure if ender is actually can genuinely mean something that ends. Maybe it can, but even then it's obscure, but I don't think it really does. And on top of that, if you're a real stickler, then you'd say that you can't just plonk an indicator next to the word. It needs to be grammatically correct. So you'd have to say ender of deaf rather than deaf ender. So there's layer upon layer of corruption of convention there. Thankfully, the clue itself was not too difficult to solve, but I suppose I was left slightly unsatisfied with that clue until I did finally figure it out, because really, when you're solving cryptics, part of it is, yes, I want to get the answer, but you really want to understand the answer as well. So to have the M bots making all that sense, but the F seeming to come out of nowhere, was frustrating. But like I said, I did finally figure it out. So there we go. I'll leave you there. Thank you so much for sitting with me through this. I hope that was entertaining. As always, like I like to say, why remain clueless? You could subscribe for more. There'll be loads of this content coming in the coming months. Hopefully a full solve sometime soon. I don't know if I mentioned, but Liam Ronalds from the Saturday Paper, they have not published, as far as I can tell, at least not online, a cryptic over the last few weeks. So waiting for the next one of those, and I'm having a think about maybe doing a DA as well, where I live solve it, but I cut out all of the excruciating waiting time between me finding answers, because I don't really want to bore you for an hour. But I think there is some kind of interesting moments in those solves that could be cool to capture on camera. So we'll see where this goes. But thanks again to everybody, and Merry New Year, Merry 2024, and I'll see you all soon.